following is a production of Medfield TV.
Hello Medfield, thank you for watching Medfield TV. I want you to be very appreciative. This is the first time the studio has been reopened since they had a huge break in a pipe before and the whole place was flooded out. So it took a long time to have it cleaned and disinfected, etc., and get everything back to order. So we're back for the first time in a long time. So before that they've been bringing traveling mics. When I interviewed Mike Sullivan before, they would come down to the town hall and do it. When I interviewed Roberta Lynch, it would be at the library at the center. So this is nice to be back here. Okay, so Mike, what are you going to tell us about the taxes and about the paving roads?
Okay, well, the taxes, you were asking before we went on air about what the impact of the override was going to be on the tax bills.
Absolutely.
And most people will have already felt it because the tax bills were mailed out, the quarterly tax bills that are due August 1st. And the assessors, when they calculate the tax rate, they try to include estimates for all the overrides that passed at the election. So the impact of those is already calculated in that estimated tax bill. People were wondering, are they going to get a big jump in February when the actual bills go out? They shouldn't. It shouldn't go up that much. Now, they still have reval that will be factored in there. But we don't, the town doesn't make any money on that. I know people think that's a big bonus for us, but some go up, some go down, some stay the same.
And I mean, house prices go down in Medfield?
Well, they did during the recession. They did.
But
they
now
dropped
they won't, would they?
Now that, well,
couldn't imagine.
You can get some areas where they go up less than others.
I could see that, but not going down. I can't imagine any area in Medfield where the
well,
assessment
it could be
will go down.
a house that hasn't been well maintained, or you know, a house that might have had some tree damage or you know lightning damage or something like that. You could. There's always circumstances that you don't think about. So, it amounted to about a 8% increase in the tax bill. I think the last year's tax bill was 1703, and next year's I think it's going to be somewhere around. The estimated bill was somewhere around 1850.
The tax rate.
So it's what about $1.40, $1.50 jump in the tax rate. So and the tax rate was 18, so $1.50 jump would be around 8%. That factored in the 4 overrides that had cost implications: the $1 million for the Dale Street School Stabilization Fund appropriation, the $1,103,000, I think it was, or $1,103,000, I think it was, for the 6.16% school budget increase, and the other small portion that was for other town budgets. Then there was $150,000 for the park and recreation preliminary building analysis, and $250,000 for the master plan. No, the master plan update was $150,000. I think the park and rec was the $250,000. So they've all been factored in there. So if you noticed a fairly sizable jump in your tax bill, that reflects all of those overrides as well as the other increases in the budgets. And
I was surprised at what a low percentage of voters went to the ballot box. I was very surprised.
It was very high for a local election, but it was still very low. It was about 1/3 of the voters.
I know, and it has a huge impact on the town.
It does, you know, so I guess many people are just resigned to that overrides passing, I guess, or although it was close. Some of those were fairly close, like 48 to 52%. So,
But some people told me it wasn't worth going to vote against it because they thought they were going to lose, and I thought, well, jeepers, some of the votes, you're right, were very close.
yes,
And I
yeah,
was very surprised that they didn't take the time to go.
yeah. Well, they, what do they say? They're part of the problem, not part of the solution. So if they choose not to participate, then they bear the consequences of that when they get their tax bills. Or
But so do
they
we.
don't, oh, they don't mind the taxes bills
Yeah.
going up. So, you know, the people that voted for it obviously
And that's fine.
didn't mind the increase. They were, well, I'm sure they mind the increase, but they,
I have no, I have no,
were in
I have no
favor of it,
problem.
so.
I have no problem with the people that went and voted for it that wanted to. But
Yeah.
my problem is the people that wanted to vote, that felt against it and didn't bother to go. And that's what's crazy.
yeah, or the people that wanted to vote for it and didn't
And
vote.
didn't go. Same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
If you want to, if there's something big like that on the ballot, it's
But you know, isn't that the case with everything? I always
guess.
say you get the presidential election, the gubernatorial election, which
you know.
are sort of the beauty contest type elections, or the American Idol races, you know, where everybody goes out because they think they should vote for the president. And I always remember what Tip O'Neill said, although he might not have been the first to say it, but that you know, all politics is local, and certainly local government is the where you have the most control over what's being done. So, but we will now move forward. The Permanent Planning and Building Committee has scheduled a meeting to begin hiring an architect or an engineer to look at the Park and Rec building.
Okay.
And it'll be a while. They have to submit a lot of information to school building assistants for the Dale Street project, so
But they
that'll
do.
be a while. I think they have 180 days or something to prepare all that information. They've set up a committee. It has to be about 12 people on it. Dale Street School Committee.
I love that school. My children did too.
It is the nicest. From the exterior, I think it's the nicest school, looking school building in town. It's too bad they say it's not, doesn't meet the standards for modern education, but
It's a
so be
perfect
it.
site. It's close to the downtown, number one, but it makes it easy for people to walk there. But it's also
Yes.
very close to the police and fire station, which I think is a real
Yes.
safety issue.
And that's why some people have suggested it would be a good site for the Park and Rec headquarters too, rather than up at the hospital, which is fairly remote. Although I think the Park and Rec Commission favors the up by the hospital site, up by McCarthy Park. But that's one of the things their study will take a look
Yeah.
at. Take a look at both sites or any other sites that might be suitable to see where the best location would be for a facility, and then to.
Has the Park and Rec decided what to do with the Fathbanner building on the corner of North and Dale?
Oh, I think one way or another that's history.
You do?
You know, it's got asbestos, it's got water problems. You know, it really. I think you'd be pouring good money after bad to try to do anything with that. I think it probably could be, you could put some tennis courts, or you could put some basketball courts in, or put additional parking for the public safety building perhaps, although that parking lot they put for the
Yes.
Dale Street School seems to work out very
Yeah,
well.
It does.
Boy, I will say that public safety building is getting a tremendous amount of use.
I'm
Those
very
meeting rooms
surprised.
there. The chief tells me that it's busy every night of the week practically.
I've had quite a few committee meetings in there.
Yeah, and it's a nice place to meet, both rooms. The one on the main floor that you can see when you drive up North Street, and the one right over the smaller conference room right over the main
Yeah,
entrance.
yeah, you can see the side street. Yep, you're right.
Yes, yeah. So that building, I know people called it the Taj Mahal, but and said, why do we need a building that big? But I think in the long run, it will prove to be a good investment for the town.
I voted for it. I did.
I did too, yeah. I think
did.
they were in abysmal quarters for a long time, if we had done it right 40 years ago, we might not have had to build this one today. But,
Yeah.
but
No, I
that's
remember
what
when they
think.
built it, because I was working for the newspaper when they were doing their anniversary thing, and they dug up the old box that they had buried.
That's right, yes. Yeah,
and
that's when they added the
showed us
police
what was in there.
station.
Yep,
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
fun.
Yeah. That's probably, what, another 60 years, and they'll be digging that up, so.
Maybe.
Not that we'll care, so.
They may be digging you and me up, too.
I hope not. I don't think I'll be mummified by then. So that's where we stand. You know, as I said, it's about somewhere in the order of about $1.50 increase in the tax rate, or about 8%. And that would be the impact of all of the overrides plus the normal budget increases.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you know, it could change, but it won't fluctuate a big amount from that. I mean, the state aid budget hasn't been finalized. It's probably pretty close. We're picking up a little over 100,000 in additional state aid, net of increases in assessments too. Fortunately, our debt is being paid off quite quickly. The annual debt service payments dropped a couple of years ago quite a bit because we finished paying off for the library, the town hall,
Right,
closing the landfill.
That was good news.
And in the next 3 years, we will, or the next 5 years, we'll finish paying off for just about all of the sewer construction projects, and for the 3 school renovations that were done around 2002, 2003.
And they were well needed. I really thought so.
Yeah, so that will help. We're paying down about $5 million in principal a year plus interest, so about $6.4 million I think we're paying this year.
You talk as if it's nothing.
Well, it's compared to, we were up to 7.3, and it's dropping quite fast. I think our principal at the end of this year will be, outstanding principal will be something like $38 million.
Wow.
At one point, 2003, it was about $67 million.
Jeepers.
So it has dropped way down,
Yeah.
but we're paying it off fairly quickly. We're still on 20-year and 10-year bonds. So, and that's tough in the short run. It's good in the long run because it frees up that money down the road for additional projects when those need to be done.
Or actually save.
Yeah.
It'd be really nice.
But as people say, well, it won't matter to me. I won't be here in 20 years. So. But, you know, speaking of 20 years, the end of July and the beginning of August marks the 20-year anniversary for completion of the renovations at the library and the town hall.
Wow. Been that
Library,
long,
I believe, moved in, I think it was July of 1998. So that's 20 years in July. And then the schools and the town offices moved back into the town hall in schools moved in the last week of July, 98, and the town moved in 1 week later, the first week of August,
Because I remember the temporary quarters. We were renting, wasn't it Charlie Breen's building we were renting?
It was right, yes, down on West Street.
Yep.
It's actually in the same block of buildings that the temporary police station was located in.
That's right.
So it's, and those buildings have held up pretty well. Considering they're now 20 years old. People are surprised when you tell them that, when they walk in and look at the building and say it's 20 years old, but it's been maintained pretty well. Unfortunately, we are losing our facilities manager. He's been with us about 1.5 years, and he's decided to go back to his former position in Weston.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he did a tremendous job.
He was a good guy.
He's just wonderful, the things he was able to achieve in 1.5 years. And he still is. You know, if you go by the library today, they're replacing the front portico steps on the old section. They're going to be replacing the street lights shortly. They're going to be redoing.
That's good.
Yes, they're going to be doing a lot of the parking lot lights and the school lighting around the schools, town hall, and that should save quite a bit of money because they're going to be putting LED lights in.
So now you have to go on a hunt and find another one?
Yes, yeah.
As good as that?
We'll never find another Jerry McCarty, that's
I don't think
for sure.
we will either.
Yeah. It's tough these times, you know, the economy is very good right now. They say for the first time since they've been keeping track, there are more jobs listed than unemployed people.
Oh, that's, in a way, it's a good thing.
It's a good thing. They say the problem is you can't match the skills. You know,
Yeah.
the people that are unemployed don't necessarily have the qualifications to take some of the jobs that
Sure.
are available. A lot of them are somewhat technical. Like we've been looking for someone to operate our wastewater treatment plant for over a year now.
Mm-hmm.
We've had to bring in a consultant to on a 25-hour-a-week basis to run it for us. We were able to find a very good replacement for the Bill Kingsbury, and for,
He's a nice man.
yes,
I have met him.
yeah,
He's a big man.
yes, and he seems to be fitting in quite well. The men and women seem to like him.
I'd like to match him up with a new priest at St. Edward's.
Oh yeah,
He's 6'5", I think, something like that. He used
Oh,
to
really?
play
Yeah.
basketball, and he was grew up in Norwood, and he played basketball at Norwood High School.
Oh, he did.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what
okay.
he told me. I don't think a priest would lie to me about that. But
Well,
he
I
told me
wonder,
did.
he would have been probably a freshman when Ken Feeney was a senior.
Oh, what should I ask Ken Feeney?
I think Ken's about 68, 69. Maybe Ken's 70. He might be a little
I
bit.
don't know.
But anyhow, Ken's a native Norwood type. So Bob Meany has announced his retirement. He's
know.
leaving August 3rd. He'll be available to help out on a limited basis until we get a replacement.
good.
But the selectmen have started to appoint a committee.
Yeah, I was on the selection committee when we hired Dick Hurley,
Yeah,
and also when we hired Bob Meany, and I
Yes.
think they were both good choices.
yes.
In fact, I talked to Bill Mann, our retired police chief, about it yesterday, and he was talking about going through the whole thing all over again.
Yes, yeah. Somebody was asking me, I told the selectmen I'm planning on leaving the end of the year, beginning of, sometime in January of 19.
Oh, you said it at the selectmen's meeting?
Am I what?
Did you say it that?
Yes.
Oh, did you? I didn't know you said it.
Yeah. So, well, it was late at night. A lot of people probably had tuned out, but it's time. It'll be just a month shy of 44 years. I started, I think, February 10th of 1975.
Because those 30 years I was a selectman, I
Okay.
always
Yes.
said, I'm going to fire you, I'm going to fire you. And you'd say, please, please.
Yes, I tried to second the motion. You told me I
That's
didn't
what you
have a
always
vote.
said.
Yes. But,
Yeah.
they're trying to figure out how to recruit for my replacement and how to handle that. They are going to have the same type of thing they had when Bob Meany was hired for police chief, assessment center arrangement.
I thought it went pretty well.
Yes, yeah. So a lot of changes, we've lost several of our major department heads in the last few years.
Yeah.
And it's not that they haven't been here for long. Many of them have been here for much longer. When you talk to people from other towns and you say that, people have worked for 30, 40, 50 years for us, they look at you like you're crazy.
But there was something special to me about Bill Kingsbury and Bob Meany because they grew up here.
Yeah.
They used to ride their motorcycle, around town, but they
Right.
grew up here, and they had
Yes.
very different feelings about the town than somebody new does, and I like that.
I
Joe
often-
Ryan, a previous fire chief, was also a local man.
Yeah, yeah.
Bill Mann
yeah,
lived here for
Dennis.
years.
Yes, yeah.
And something very nice about that, but we
Yeah.
probably won't find it again, I guess.
It's getting harder and harder, with the price of housing and, the way things are going in terms of people changing jobs more frequently, and the younger people seem to want to work in the city, and they're more into technical things. I was kidding our public works director, Mo Goulet, about a treatment plant, and I said, maybe you have to change the title to something like an environmental compliance officer or something like that to attract the young people.
Yeah, that might sound better.
Because you have all these environmental majors coming out of college, and
A lot of engineers coming out. Two of my grandsons are engineering majors, yeah.
Yeah, and I was reading an article recently saying that there's going to be a big problem in water and sewer because most of the people in those fields have reached retirement age and will be retiring in the next 5 to 10 years, and it's going to be very difficult to find replacements for them because young people naturally want to work where there are other young people working with them. So it's, and they want to be in where the excitement is, and so most of them prefer to live in the city. In fact, they say a lot of kids from Medfield now are renting or buying in South Boston.
So they're going to have a big retirement party when you go?
No, I don't want anything.
I know you don't, but I'm going to say, just want to say it for the people at home. I know that. You told me that.
No, I don't. I've told them, if anybody tries to do anything, I'll pull a Harold Bertoni. Harold Bertoni used to be in charge of the building maintenance for the schools, and he told them he didn't want a party, and they insisted. And so he told them he'd go over with just coffee and donuts. And so they had it at the school cafeteria, and he didn't show. And they said, well, why didn't you show? He said, well, I told you I didn't want it. So I always refer to that as the Harold Bertoni moment. But no, I don't want anything. People have to do enough stuff with their own.
But some people want to say goodbye.
Well, they can always drop by the town hall and say goodbye. They've got 6 months to do it. So, but I don't want to anything like a retirement party.
I know you don't.
But you know, once you make up your mind, I think you kind of want to move forward with it, and so I'm kind of looking forward to spending a little more time with relatives and friends that I've neglected over the years because of the job.
I'm going to teach you how to play bridge. I bet you'd be a natural.
I don't know. I'm more of a cribbage type, I think. So.
Well, they play cribbage at the center, and you're old enough now.
That's right. Yes, I know. Yep, that's right. When they talk about the seniors, I say, and I can talk about that because I are one. So,
I are one more than you.
Yes. You mentioned at the start of the program about the roads.
The roads, I'm very curious about the roads.
And last week, we were intending to do them later in the season, but the company that got the bid on the paving jobs had some openings, so they decided to do North Street last week, the last couple of weeks, and that turned out very well. They paved it from let me see, what is it, Pine Street to the Dover line. And they went a little bit up West Harding Street and over to West. And they did it in about a week and a half, ground it down and paved it with a new kind of coating that Public Works thinks will last much longer, give a much better wearing surface. And next week, which is the 4th of July week, they're going to do 109 from Causeway Street to the
to Millis?
to the bridge, to the river. Now remember, a year or two ago they did the paving in the center. They paved 109 through the center, and they did some patching at the other end. They're hoping probably next year to do from the rest of 109 to the Walpole line if they have sufficient Chapter 90 money, and that will get us in shape for the next hopefully 10 years. And we expect to get on the list for having the state provide funds to redo 109. After all, they provided funds for Medway, Millis,
Yeah, I know that.
Westwood. So we think that with all that, just with the Tresca trucks alone, we ought to qualify for
They should
aid.
have to pay a toll when they go through.
If we had a toll, we'd probably be able to pave it in gold with all the Tresca trucks that go through.
But they do it in the summertime, as you well know, because schools close and the streets are quieter, much quieter in the summertime here.
Yeah,
And no schools, so it makes a big difference in the
and that's
number
the
of
ideal
vehicles.
thing about the 4th of July. You know, I remember I had a Globe reporter call up a few years ago and wanted to know if he was doing a story on what towns were doing for the 4th of July, and he wanted to know if we would have any fireworks or parades, and I said the only parade I'm aware of in Medfield is the parade to New Hampshire and the parade to the Cape, because everybody leaves town. And we do it on Memorial Day. In fact, I was kidding our new veterans agent, John Cogan, about that. He was asking today if Medfield did anything for the 4th. And I was telling him that story. Yeah. He's doing a very good job. Good. I think he's very fits in very well. He's reached out. He's spoken to the seniors. He's spoken to the Legion. And he's getting around and getting a feel for the town. I think it was a good move. The other position that we filled since I last met with you was the a building inspector. As you know, John Naff left and went over to Rentham as their building inspector. So we hired a guy by the name of Chris Canny. He started about 3 weeks ago.
Who did he work for before?
He worked part-time for Sherburne and part-time for Framingham.
Oh, okay.
And he seems to be fitting right in, doing a nice job, and getting out and getting around. His family did some building in town years ago, so he's somewhat familiar with the town.
What was the last name? Cannon?
Canny, C-A-N-N-E-Y, I believe.
Oh, Canny.
Canny, yeah.
Don't remember the name.
So I think that was a lucky find, and you know those were hard positions to fill. Ron Griffin did a really tremendous job as veterans agent, and John Naff did a great job as building inspector.
And filling your position, of course, will be a piece of cake.
That's right. They can pick
anybody could do it, right?
They go out on the street and pick anybody off. So, Somebody said, "You've been working there for 40 years?" I said, "Yeah, they haven't caught up with me yet." And they've only got 6 months now to do it. So
you made a lot of friends, probably a few enemies as I did, but I'm sure you made more friends than enemies over the years.
Well, if you don't make some enemies, you're not doing anything.
I agree.
Right, I guess so.
Unfortunately.
But I like to think that during my 43 years, there have been some accomplishments. I think all the land we've been able to acquire to protect and keep it open, when you look at Medfield and you compare it with some of the other communities where the land hasn't been protected, I think we have about 50% of the land area in some sort of protection, which is extraordinary, I think, and it's a real compliment to the Conservation Commission, the Open Space Committee, the Selectmen, the town meeting.
Else, yeah.
And the taxpayers that have been willing to foot the bill. I mean, it wasn't cheap. We were lucky that we've had a lot of people sold their land at below market prices or were willing to sell to the town rather than private developer. Many cases, people donated the land, like Rocky Woods was a donation, not to the town, but to the trustees, but it's preserved and kept it open. So that's, and then I think Main Street and the downtown area have, the last few years, really picked up. There's a lot, it's sort of people like to come to Medfield Center now. They no longer call it Deadfield. We have several restaurants.
Oh, we do.
You got Basil's.
And they seem to do well.
Yeah, you got, and they don't seem to mind that when other restaurants come, they seem to all fill up no matter what.
Years ago, if we were going out with friends for dinner, especially on a Friday night, we went to Franklin because they had such a good solution. There's so many different restaurants back there. I'm talking in the middle 60s.
Yes.
There were so many. My God, you could find one of 20. I don't know how many there were, but it seemed like a lot. We go to a different one all the time. It was great. So maybe people will do it in Medfield too.
Yeah, although I've gone out a couple of times on a weekend and you can't get into it. If you don't get there or don't have a reservation, you're kind of out of luck, which is a good thing. It's a healthy sign. So.
You expect to still be here when we do something with the state hospital, I hope?
People say, what's going to happen at the state hospital? I say, ask me in 10 years and I might have an answer. So I hope to be here when something's done with the state hospital, but who knows?
Because that would help a lot. You have that experience that other people won't have.
Yeah, well, you know, that committee has put in a tremendous amount of work, and it's a difficult problem.
I was on the reuse committee for years before the State Hospital Reuse Committee.
And you know, to me, there's some problems there that people don't want the density, and without the density, developers don't seem to want the project.
Right.
So they feel they need a certain threshold of units in order to make any profit on the on a development up there. And then there's other groups that want to protect all the old buildings. There's other groups that want to put cultural center up there. There's other groups that want to keep it as a dog park. You know, other people want farm-to-table restaurants, and you know.
But the same things come up when I was on the reuse committee.
Yeah.
Same ideas.
Yes.
Exactly the same ones they're considering today.
I just wish, I know a lot of people have almost set in concrete ideas of what should be done up there and the density of development.
But I could do it myself. You could do it yourself. It's easy. If I owned that
Yes.
land, I could certainly plan. I'd have everything done, and you could. But getting a group
Yes.
of people together and then the taxpayers together is a whole different ballgame.
Yes, it's a dictator could easily get that done in a few years, but when you try to get 12,000 people to agree on anything, it's not easy. So I don't know what'll happen. I just that's one I'm not going to make predictions on because I really don't know. Some people want to see nothing up there.
I know a few that don't.
But now it's going to be very expensive if you just let it sit there and let the buildings fall down, because the regulations for demolition of buildings are getting more and more strict. Plus, there are fewer and fewer places that are willing to take the
dump
the
it.
debris. Yeah.
I know. Even when we had the asbestos taken out of our house, I got my old house on North Street. We got several bids, and I asked the different people coming in where we're going to take it, and also the asbestos siding that was on the side of our house that we wanted rid of because it was getting friable also.
Yeah.
And they said, "Do you really care where it goes?" And I thought, "Oh my God."
Yeah,
That was crazy.
Well,
I'm not fight, you know.
Only when I drink water that comes out of the ground and breathe the air that's around. But it's, you know, and we've found this with our transfer station. You know, since China has adopted this policy where they won't take contaminated recycled materials, the price has skyrocketed for handling recycled materials. In fact, it's almost up as much as taking it to an incinerator, and probably in the next year or two it could be cheaper to take it to an incinerator.
That's what we're hearing here.
So what do you do?
Might be the end of recycling.
Well, I hope not, because
hope not
I think recycling is a good thing, and you know, even if you reduce the trash by 90%, ash, you still have to have a place to put it, and nobody wants it in their backyard.
Of course they don't.
Including China now. So, there are lots of problems and lots of opportunities. So we're working on a number of things. Besides what was taken up at town meeting, we're trying to come up with a solution to the bridge repairs. I understand next year Mass Highway out of Worcester is going to tackle some repairs to the 109 bridge.
Oh God, that'll really.
Yes, and to the West Street Bridge. Now, they still want Medfield and Millis to participate in the cost of the repairs, and
They still
say
do. I thought maybe they'd change their mind on that one.
Not yet. You know, they may eventually, but I don't see why that is any different from so many other commuter roads in town.
I know, and it is a commuter road.
It absolutely is.
You can tell it if you go down there at 7:30 and 8 in the morning.
Yes, yeah. And I said, you know, what if that bridge were shut down, the traffic on 109 would back up to 495. And everybody would be out there with equipment to repair it immediately. So, it's a lot of interesting things happening. I'll miss some of the things that I've worked on over the years, but I think there are other people. We have a very deep staff. Our financial people are very good. Georgia, who's been with us since she was 14, and she's now, what, 39?
29, I thought.
29, yes. And Yvonne, who started a couple of years ago, but grew up in Medfield, actually, although she lives in Franklin.
Yeah,
now,
we have a great staff at Town Hall.
Yes,
I always thought they
Joy.
were part of a family, kind of,
Yes,
when I went in
yes.
there. I missed it a lot.
Yes, Joy and Matt are terrific, and Susan Cronin in the collector's office, Dolores.
And Norma
that's all.
Cronin?
Well, Norma's been gone for a few years. Yeah,
I know, but she was a
Kathy,
big favorite.
She was got us through a lot of difficult
And Sarah
times.
Raposa is terrific.
Yes, yeah, and you got Kathy Mills and
Yep.
and then Scott Allison down the building
He's another good one,
department,
yep.
and
I can't think of a bad one.
no. Well, hopefully the bad ones are gone.
Well, that'll be you when you go.
That's right. Yeah, you get rid of the last of the dead wood. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
But it's been a lot accomplished, I think. And not many towns have a viable downtown, and I think Medfield. If we could only solve the problem of traffic on 109 and make
I
that
don't know
go
what
away, we'd have a tremendous downtown. But I guess you just have to deal with
It's
that.
a big issue,
because
I know.
We're all part of the problem. We all
Absolutely.
want to go somewhere in our cars or.
That always came up with the Economic Development Committee that I'm on, the parking and the 109.
Yeah, the parking doesn't seem to be that bad a problem.
But getting better?
Yeah, you know, they did an update on the traffic study. Sarah was able to get some funds for it.
Right, I remember.
And they said that we have enough parking spaces. They're just not situated necessarily where they would be most convenient. You know, you've got a lot of parking on North Meadows Road at that strip mall, and you got CVS has good parking, and then you've got parking behind the town hall and behind Avenue, and it's used at different times of day for different people. You know, you get the employees that work in the center in the daytime, and
The hardest one for me was when Old St. Edward's Church was there, where the library addition is.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, and the parking was absolutely crazy. Even on Sunday morning at 7 or 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, it was crazy on Sunday.
Yes, and then the mad rush to get the donuts at Lord's.
Exactly right.
Yes. Yeah.
So different pressures of change.
You know, I remember one of the architects that was looking at Town Hall 20-some years ago when we were planning it, and she said, you know, I've never been able to find a parking space in Medfield. She said, I couldn't always find one right next to the door I wanted to go in. Maybe I had to walk a couple of 100 feet, but I've always been able to find a parking space. And I think that's somewhat true. I think we've gotten so used to the convenience of, you know, door-to-door
Yeah.
parking. I mean, sometimes you'll go up to Shaw's and you'll see people driving all over so they can park right next to the door.
I know it.
And then they go into Shaw's and walk around a half mile looking for things. So.
Yeah. Maybe things will change after you go, but are they going to get better or worse after you go?
I hope it gets better.
You think
I
it
always
will?
want to see things get better for Medfield.
I hope that they've gotten better in the last 44 years. I think you've done a really good
I
job.
think so. I think, you know, I remember when I came, everybody was complaining there were too many gas stations and pizza parlors.
I know there were.
And then about 15 years later, everybody complained there were too many banks and real estate offices. But now it seems to have settled into a pretty good balance. I mean, we have shops and restaurants and offices, and I think it's an attractive downtown.
Yeah, I'd like another Lord's down there, though.
Yeah,
That was a
but
big,
you know,
big spot.
so many people shop online now.
I know.
So many people are going to the big box stores because they can get it 10% cheaper.
But Lord's had everything, writing papers, you know, whatever you needed, needle and thread, you know, papers and pencils, and no matter what it was, they would have it.
Yes, yeah.
Baby equipment, they even sold diapers, they sold yarn. I mean, they had all
Yes.
kinds of stuff you can't find elsewhere.
I often tell people this, and most of them I don't think believe me, that when I came to Medfield, Lord's used to sell ammunition.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, for the hunters during the hunting season when they'd come out to sit in their duck lines along the Charles River and they needed ammunition, Lords would have it.
Very
So-
handy.
And then Wills, when Wills was in the center, they had the infamous basement
I love that basement.
you would say, do you have this type of screw that was in a cabinet from the 1930s?
And Sunburn,
And
they'd
they'd
find
go
it.
down the cellar and they'd come back 5 minutes later
was amazed.
with a box of screws, just the type
Yeah.
you're looking for. So, so many of those personal attention, concerns that nowadays you go in and you're hard pressed to find a clerk in many of these big box stores, and if you do find one, they don't know which end is up sometimes. But
Well,
though I guess with the good comes the bad. And
it does. It changes.
Yes.
And it's going to be changes. It's been a lot since I've been here. I moved here in the middle '60s. A lot of
Yeah.
changes since I came. A lot since you came.
Oh yeah.
10 years
Yeah.
later. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think people still like Medfield. They still has a small town flavor to it.
Well, I have 3 children here, as you know.
Yes, yeah, you're very lucky. Not
I'm very
many
lucky.
people can say that still have children in the area. So many of them move away to other parts of the country or
Well,
even
three
other
are
countries.
3 are away, but
Yeah, but they come
3 are
back
here.
enough to bug you.
oh, absolutely.
So
I still have good memories. Rocky Woods is still
Yeah.
one of their favorite memories of Medfield, and the
yeah.
swim pond.
oh yes,
They come right up, and of course, Bubbling Brook in Westwood.
yes, that's
We used to
right,
ride our
yes,
bikes
yeah.
Sunday afternoons, and then if they eat a quick dinner, then we go to Bubbling Brook.
Yeah. Did you ever go to the breakfast down in Noon Hill, the Sportsman's
I
Club?
did. I like that.
Yeah. I didn't realize that. Somebody said they still have that.
Do they really? No,
yeah.
even Andy liked it.
Yeah, I don't think they have it in the summer. I think it's they do it in the winter when the roads
I
are
liked it very much.
passable. So
Another good memory.
yeah.
Well, someday in 20 years, people saying that you're a good memory and I'm a good memory. I hope it's not a
Yes,
bad memory.
when we're popping up daisies down in Vine Lake or whatever.
Well,
No, you
someday.
won't be. You don't. Yeah.
Someday. Was there anything
Maybe.
else you want to bring up tonight? Today?
I probably will think of lots of things as soon as we go off the air, but I think we covered a lot of nostalgia, if nothing else.
I think we'll invite you
the
back next
paving.
month.
Good. I'm always looking forward to it and try to come up with new and exciting bits of trivia for
Yeah, get some
Medfield.
gossip or something going on. Something
Okay.
exciting.
Do you want me to just gossip, spread some gossip about you?
Oh yeah, there's nothing there. Believe me, it would be the dullest conversation you'd have with
We
anybody.
can make up some fake news.
It would have to be fake because there ain't nothing there. Okay, well, thank you, Mike, for coming. And thank you at home for watching Medfield TV. And once again, I hope you realize that we're so lucky to have the studio back in full force. So if you have any ideas for future discussions here on Medfield TV, give me a call or send me an email at annmedfield@verizon.net. And thanks for watching Medfield TV.
Medfield TV, community shows.